What's going on? You listen to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast and Ujumbe meets message, and we're going to talk about the first or the forgotten pharaoh of Egypt, the forgotten pharaoh of Egypt, and I'm very excited about it because we are in a new series, the Queens of the South, the Queens of the South. We've been talking about this for months. Brother Mo been asking, and Brother Ferguson was asking about it. We're gonna get into it. It is springtime, the sun is out, and I figured we should kick this off with our sisters. Last fall we did talk about the fellas. We talked about my top five kings of Egypt. Now we're going to get with the sisters, and I'm very excited about that. And so here's the book. Here's the book. Our book, the first female pharaoh, Sobekneferu, the goddess of the seven stars. The link is in the description. And now Andrew Collins, he goes into the life and legacy of Egypt's first female pharaoh ruler, Sobekneferu. This book is structured into like 8 parts, with initial chapters laying the groundwork for understanding her reign and significance. And so today we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 of the book and why Hatshepsut was portrayed as masculine. Okay, there is a statue out there that she's missing some parts. So things came up missing. So, we're gonna get into that, and we're gonna break down some hieroglyphics, the meta nature, and I'm excited about it. And so we're gonna deal with the chapter 1, female pharaohs. And so in chapter 1, in this opening chapter, Collins addresses the rarity of female pharaohs in ancient Egypt, setting the stage for Sobekneferu's unique position in history. And he also explores the societal and cultural dynamics that typically restricted women from ascending to the throne, emphasizing the patriarchal nature of Egyptian society. But do you agree with that? Okay, now let's deal with it because and there are some things I do agree with him on in the book, but there's some things I disagree with him. Okay, um, I have to because there's some things that um, he talks about that it comes from a Eurocentric view. It's groundbreaking for sure, but it's coming from that perspective. Okay, but do you agree, knowing what you know, because some of you guys have been with me for a minute, knowing what you know, was that dynamic restricted to the women? Okay, comment below. Now, chapter one. Uh, chapter one, the female pharaoh in this book. I love the book. It's a great book, by the way. But chapter one, he talks about some of the female pharaohs, and he deals with Cleopatra. I'm gonna tell you, she ain't her. I'm, I, you know, I I have my top five, but Cleopatra is not in that list. But he does go from Cleopatra all the way up or down to Sobekneferu, and so of course, in his book, he says she's most remembered, however, for her controversial relationship with the Roman dictator and general Julius Caesar, along with her later love for the Roman military commander and administrator Mark Antony. She was an opportunist. That's what that was. Like, she knew she had some issues on one side, so she figured which person would benefit her later on. And so much, he goes on to say, much of what we know about Cleopatra from classical writers is perhaps based on some variation of the truth. You hear what it said? Andrew Collins opens up by saying, much of what we know, okay, about Cleopatra from classical writers is perhaps based on some variation of the truth according to which sources are consulted. That's why she's not in my top five. There's some other reasons, but I'll tell you why later. But yeah, he did itemize. He did mention Cleopatra, Nefertiti, Hatshepsut. All of them are ancient Egyptian female rulers, immortalized in films. So they were great people. They had great imagery. And I'm gonna tell you this: a lot of people, even now, would kind of portray Cleopatra as what they saw back in the 60s, the 50s and 60s with Elizabeth Taylor. That light skinned woman was not going to be able to stand that African sun that long. Okay, so Cleopatra ain't her. She's not her. All right. Now Nefertiti. Nefertiti. He goes from Cleopatra. He talks about Nefertiti uh, during the Tel Amarna in Middle Egypt. This, of course, she was very influential, very impactful. Okay, the story of Akhenaten and Nefertiti and how together they attempted to change art, religion, and lifestyle of the ancient Egyptian world is well known and need not to be recounted here. Suffice to say that Akhenaten's explosive 17-year reign managed to stir considerable outrage among the existing priesthoods, particularly that of Amun and the patron god of Thebes or Waset. Okay, in the end, it caused a collapse, which in turn led to the inevitable return to the old ways. Okay? With the old ways of the old gods back to rightful place, newly reinstated Amun priesthood under the control of the military genius Horemheb himself, a future pharaoh, attempted to restore order and stability in the country by engineering the election of the throne to his son Tutankhamun. But I'm gonna say this: we see this picture, we see this image of Nefertiti everywhere. It's world famous, but by the way, it's a fake. It's not the authentic picture of or depiction of Nefertiti. That is, to my understanding, a falsified version of Nefertiti. And in the model that they used was German. So the famous image of Nefertiti that everybody love and like and see everywhere is a German, a European, and not an African. Okay, check this out. This is the real image of Nefertiti. Okay, very African. You see her facial features. She does. This person is not that person. You see it? Nefertiti, German. Yeah, they put a little tan on her, but we know what it is. And this was the real Nefertiti here. But let me tell you this, okay? Because we just mentioned Horemheb electing, electing King Tut to be the next pharaoh of Egypt, even though the young man was like 9 years old. But Nefertiti was not King Tut's mother. Yep, yep. I said what I said. Nefertiti was not King Tut's mother. Okay. I have some speculation. I have some speculation, some ideas, but let me know if you want me to talk about that. But yeah, that's Mao not Mao. Okay. But he was put in a situation that was a little political. Okay. And the young man didn't know what was happening. Unfortunately, we know the story, but yeah, he was Horemheb, a military leader, elected elected to put him on the throne. Okay, so some scholars would believe that um, Nefertiti, we don't know what happened to her. Obviously, we don't know because by the time he came to the throne, Nefertiti was not around at all. She disappeared or she was dead already. What was that about? Okay, now let's continue. We're gonna get into Queen Hatshepsut. Now, Queen Hatshepsut is the daughter of King Tutmosis the second, who ruled circa 1504 to 1492. Hatshepsut became queen of Egypt after marrying her half brother, which is weird, Tutmosis the second, when he was just 12 years old. So after his death around 1479, she assumed the throne as regent on the behalf of her stepson. So Andrew Collins is breaking down all the Egyptian queens who served as rulers in Egypt, and Hatshepsut is one of them. So So during her 6 year reign, Hatshepsut extended foreign trade into distant lands like Punt. I had a discussion about that. I talked about the land of Punt, which she called it Ta Neter. Okay, check that video out. She did go to Punt, and they exchanged goods, services, frankincense, myrrh, and all those things. So she did go to Punt, and um, there was some exchange there. Okay, she called it Ta Neter, or God's land, Ta Neter. Okay, and so it was an exotic country located in the southern end of the Red Sea, while at the same time overseeing a large number of ambitious building projects. Okay, so Hatshepsut was pretty cool. Okay, so what was important about Hatshepsut, according to the book, is that she not only assumed the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt, she deliberately went out her way. Here it comes. She went out her way to depict herself as male in public statues. Yikes. So we got a question. We got a question. Why did she not show her feminine features? Brother Joe asked this. Brother Joseph Ferguson, he asked this question about that. And so, according to the book, this is what he says in the book. He says, along with the familiar headdresses of kings, she would be seen wearing the false beard, which is an important symbol of kingship. Being portrayed as male was very clearly something she saw as important in a highly particularly uh, patriarchal world, unlikely to accept her for the way she was. That is, as king who was a woman. For a while, her strategy worked. Hatshepsut was accepted as rightful pharaoh. Now, there was some other, I wrote them down somewhere, but there were some other things that there was some other reasons why, and one of them was legitimacy and authority, okay, political stability, religious symbolism, practical governance, and personal strategy for longevity. And so we have to understand that she she was in a she was in her rightful place, but she was in a bad place because some people did not understand why she's here and what she was doing. Okay, so she we will go further into detail as far as Hatshepsut a little bit later, but that's what it is. She had to she had to make sure that Egypt was intact. Okay, and so let me get this real quick. Let me see if I can get that note. I had some notes here. So now I'm gonna say this: dealing with legitimacy of authority in ancient Egypt, the role of pharaoh was traditionally male, and power was closely associated with the image of kingship, right? So by adopting male symbols, Hatshepsut reinforced her right to rule and minimize opposition to reign. So, and in political stability, as the first woman to take the full title of pharaoh, which a lot of people would like to put that on Hatshepsut, but we're gonna say Sobekneferu was the first. But she needed to maintain stability in society where male leadership was the norm. Presenting herself as male ruler helped prevent challenges. Religious symbolism. Pharaohs were considered divine representatives of the Neteru, particularly Osiris and Horus, who was depicted as male. Okay, embodying the traditional image of a king. Hatshepsut aligned herself with divine rulership. And number four, practical governance. Egyptian iconography had a strong precedent of associating power with masculinity. Okay, by appearing as male pharaoh, she ensured continuity in governance and reduced resistance from observable factions and personal strategy for longevity. By adopting the traditional male attributes of pharaohs, Hatshepsut ensured her role was taken seriously. Okay, so uh, it's very important that we understand that these people were their lives was totally different and their views was totally different. So I hope I answered that question, brother Joe. We'll get to it though. But now I did make that mistake. I did put Hatshepsut's father. That is her brother. Okay, and it's still weird. I don't care what you say, but I don't care how you spin it. Let me I'm gonna make that correction. That is her brother, but they did find, well, the reason why I put that there. They did find his tomb. They did find that. So they found Tutmosis the second his tomb, but I don't think they found the body. Okay, so they found Tutmosis the second's tomb, but they're saying that the body is somehow, some way missing. Okay, so that's pretty strange. Okay, but what do you think? What would you think Tutmosis the second's body would be? Comment below. All right. Now, of course, I'll get to my top five queens of the Nile Valley. Okay, excluding Cleopatra. I said what I said. So my top five queens. We're gonna get into that probably in the next couple of episodes. All right. So we dealt with Queen Hatshepsut. She was that icon. She was um, very powerful, but the issue was, of course, all kings and queens have an end, and so her son took over, and it went from there. And of course, Andrew Collins, he mentions other female pharaohs or other female leaders or rulers that were regents, were governors, but they didn't have that title into Biti, or queen or king of the north and south, like Sobekneferu. Okay, he mentions many of them. They mention Kentarez. Okay, he mentions how there was a fourth pyramid. Okay, and he also mentioned the wife of Amos, who drove out the Hyksos, those foreigners who came during the intermediate period. He talked about them, but they weren't the first female pharaoh. Okay. So Collins, he delves into the concepts of kingship in ancient Egypt, highlighting how it's intrinsically linked to male attributes and divine endorsement. The pharaoh was seen as the earthly embodiment of gods like Heru or Horus, reinforcing male dominance and rulership. But how can you explain this? That's the reason why I disagree with him. How can you explain Menkaure on the left side of Heteru, and then the gnome on the far on the other side there? How can you explain that? How can you explain where you have kings next to a queen right next to them? Okay. Also, how can you explain this, where we have King Tut sitting on the head of Isis? To my understanding, that basically means this is not a patrilineal culture. Africans and African Americans normally are matrilineal. Okay. Yes, grandfather may be living, but where are we going? We're going to grandma in them house. You see what I'm saying? It's very matrilineal. Okay. And from what I learned and what I know is that the rulership comes through the mother and not the father. The legitimacy comes through the mother and not the father. And how about this? We have to understand that the pharaoh is seen as the intermediary between the gods and humanity, a living God on earth, and the maintainer of Ma'at. Ma'at is a feminine form, which means justice and balance. Okay, so he has to have that balance. A king must have a queen and things of that nature. So he has to have that balance. In order to do that, he had to learn from his mother and his father. Okay, and also, he was a representation of the Neteru. Like my favorite statue, Menkara, on the left is Heteru, symbolic of the house of Heru, or house of Horus. On the right is a personification of the Ha-Re Nome. So you see many images of kings and pharaohs, kings and queens standing right next to each other. The woman is not behind the man. The woman is not behind the man. The woman is not behind the man, though. She is standing right next to him, or sitting like this one, sitting right next to each other. That means equality there. So this basically you know this by their own images, by their own statues, it writes off the idea that they were male dominant because there's so many images and illustrations of the ancient Egyptian men and women sitting right next to each other, not behind or not in a lowly stature. Only in Europe where they would treat their women worse than dogs. But remember, during this time, there was no such place as Europe. All right. So the chapter also examines the titles and regalia adopted by the female pharaohs to legitimize their rule. Everything was symbolic and everything meant something and everything was important. So Sobekneferu, for example, combined traditional male titles with feminine grammatical forms, showcasing a blend of conformity and innovation. You will see some of that in her name. Okay. You see some of that in her name. Okay. This strategic amalgamation not only asserted her legitimacy, but also set precedent for subsequent female rulers. Okay. So this was all on purpose. Okay. So she did things strategically, even though her reign was short, she did things purposefully and strategically. Okay. Collins further explores the religious implications of a female pharaoh in a society where the pharaoh was the high priest and intermediary between the gods and the people. A woman in this role necessitated theological adjustments. Sobekneferu's devotion deities like Sobek, the crocodile god, and Nehe, the warrior goddess, is discussed as a means of reinforcing her divine right to rule. When we, in a minute, we're going to break down the meta nature, the hieroglyphics, and we're going to see that connection there with Sobek and some other things. Also, I found some other things out because she's not, Sobekneferu is not from Thebes like others. All right. Not, here it comes. So her association with these deities, particularly Sobek, symbolized strength and fertility, qualities essential for the prosperity of the nation. Now, so in chapter one, it provided a comprehensive overview of the challenges and strategies associated with female pharaohs. But chapter two, the ruler of two lands. This the ruler of two lands. You know, we said the king of the north and south, queens of the south, and everything. But hold on, we're gonna see in a minute. This summer, we're gonna see who's the real king of the north and south because Nubia has entered the chat. They say, like, say, bro, you may be the king of the north and south up there, but down here, we get down different. We do things differently. We may have the same similar culture, but you're not the king of us. You're not the boss of us. Yeah, the Nile River War is coming. So there were some issues that had to be addressed. Okay, there was some things that had to be resolved. All right. So, matter of fact, y'all let me know. Y'all subscribe and comment below. But let me know. Was Simbel the great temple with Ramses with the four statues in the front? Was that a flex? Was that showing his authority? Was that him saying, telling the Nubians, "You can't tell me what to do," even though he didn't cross that line, though? Y'all tell me. All right, so chapter two. Okay, chapter two, it goes into Sobekneferu's ascent to power and her reign over Upper and Lower Egypt, collectively known as the Two Lands. Collins examines the political landscape preceding her rule, marked by the death of her father, Amenemhet, Amenemhat the third, and the subsequent reign of her brother, Amenemhat the fourth. The absence of a male heir after her brother's death created a power vacuum, setting the stage for Sobekneferu's unprecedented rise to the throne. See, this what makes her different. Okay, this what makes her different. Everybody else was married to the pharaoh or whatever, but she was the pharaoh's daughter, and her brother passed away. And so she took over. That's different. Very different. Hatshepsut was married to the pharaoh. Queen Tai married to the pharaoh. Nefertiti married to the pharaoh. But Sobekneferu was born into this. So let's get it. Now, this is a image of Sobekneferu. I really like it. So Collins explores the possibility of a nationalist movement that may have supported Sobekneferu's claim to the throne, her brother's progressive policies and alliances. Before I get into that, like I said, she, according to this information, she is not from Thebes. She's not from the South. Even though she does, we'll talk about that. But even though she does give credit to those of the South, but she's not from Waset. She's not from Aswan area where most of the other pharaohs are from. But now, her brother's progressive policies and alliances with foreign entities might have alienated traditionalist factions within Egypt. Again, because of where they're from, there was some political issues. There was some concerns there. Okay, so Sebekneferu's ascent could thus been seen as a strategic move, a power move to restore traditional values and consolidate power uh, internally. So this perspective offers insight into the complex interplay of internal politics and external influences during her reign. So now, before we break this down, because her name is important. I said before, names are important. Like and subscribe. Before we break this down, hit the like button and subscribe. All right. But check this out. Got a quiz review. Quiz review. Right. Now, based on our previous video, Angela Davis, racial radical thinker, social activist, and the fight for justice, was Angela Davis a member of the Black Panther Party? Yes or no? Okay. Okay. You guys answered correctly. She was not. No, she was not a member of the Black Panther Party. She was a friend of it. She was cool with it, but she was not an official member. Okay. If you got the answer correctly, you got an A for the day. Very good. All right, let's break this down. All right, we're going to get into her name. All right, because the book talks about that. The book talks about the importance of her name, and so there's a seal with the honorary title, and it shows a reference to her devotion to Sobek. Right. So we're going to break this down line for line here. All right, the first name. Okay, Horus' name is Merit or Mary Ra or Meru Ra. Okay. The T at the end of that. Let me slow down. The T at when you see a T at the end of a name or phrase, that tells you that this person is female. The T at the Merit Ru, that is female. So, but that means beloved of Ra, or beloved of God, right? Uh, uh, the Betty name, okay, that is the second line here. The Betty or Insert Betty, that is Sat Sechem Nebet Tawi and Nebetawi. You hear that a lot. Nebetawi. Guess what? Guess what? Is the daughter of the powerful one, mistress of the two lands. Okay, the powerful. Okay, Nebetawi. Okay, two lands. Nebetawi. Okay. Okay. Neb, by the way, the word Neb means Lord. So mistress, Nebet, you hear that T, Nebet, mistress of the two lands or lady of the two lands. Okay. Golden horse name, that is the eternal name. So they have several names. Okay. That is the eternal name. That's the Jet Kau, the Jet Kau. Okay. That's the Jet. You see that pillar. Okay, that means it's established, established of crowns. Okay, she had the right to reign. She had the right to rule. So she was established. Her father was king. Her brother was king, but they passed away. So established. Okay, established the crown. Now her throne name, Sebek Kara. Sebek is the soul of God or soul of Ra. Okay, so we have the Horus name, Merit. Ra, beloved of Ra, Set Sekem Nebetawi, okay, daughter of the powerful one, mistress of the two lands, the golden horse name, uh, a jet Kau, okay, or the jet Hau, okay, because they did not have vowels established. That means established the crown. Throne name Sobek Kara, and guess what? There was another name, fifth. Okay, her when she was born, her mother gave her this name, Neferu Sebek Ra. Okay, the beauty of Sobek and Ra. Okay, so they had names. We all have names. We have names. We have the our official name, like Mr. Cameron. We have names that our family would give us. Okay, our mothers would give us, and then our nicknames and so on. So this was what it meant, and you notice that you see that little duck there. Okay, you see that little duck there, and we're gonna get with the about that about Wajet and the vulture also. We're gonna talk about them two ladies. We're gonna talk about them two ladies too. But you see that duck and that smaller son there, that's Sarah. Okay, that means son of the sun. Okay, and so when you see that, you see the shin or they call it cartoons the shim encased with their name. That is their official name. And then you see the rees and the b there. That's the instant bitty. Okay, and so all these are important. Names are important. So when you had to talk to them, when you addressed them, you gave them that that throne name, Sebek Kara or the Jet Kau. Okay, and so as I mentioned, he even talked about it. This is on page 17. He talked about the T in the feminized form. Sobekneferu's horse name can be seen to honor Ra. Okay, this name was chosen not to simply appease the priesthood, okay, but um, to connect with the culture. Okay, so it said priesthood whose cult center was Heliopolis, somewhere lost today beneath the sprawling suburbs of northeastern Cairo. Okay, and so and the two ladies, the Wajet and the Nebi, the daughter of power. Okay, so he breaks those names down. It's really interesting. And so and get this, but why would she choose these series of names like this? Why would she choose that? It said this choice of names, Sobekneferu part, would have reflected the fact that the monarch was considered to rule from the place where the two lands, that is Upper and Lower Egypt, were seen to come together or meet. Okay, so it's not just okay. I'm running Egypt and Sudan. No, this is where a common area where both regions meet. Okay. Usually this is deemed to exist at a latitude corresponding with Memphis or Men Nefer or Hetkapata. Okay. The ancient city known as White Walls, which acted as the capital of Lower Egypt. So in Upper Egypt, the capital or the major city was Thebes or Waset. In Lower Egypt, closer to the Nile Delta, it was Memphis. Okay. So one of the titles was Ankatawi, or the life of the two lands. So Neferu, however, in her immediate ancestors saw and I'm sorry, so Neferu, however, and her immediate ancestors saw the demarcation between Upper and Lower Egypt existing further south. Further south. So coincident to the Fayum region. So she knew that her ancestors were based not up north; they was from the south in the Fayum region. So that's pretty interesting. So in her name, she did give a nod or pay a little homage to her ancestors or that region where she's from. Okay. And if you want to know about how to break some of these names down, shout out to the website Pharaoh.se. Pharaoh.se is really good. Okay. They break the names down and everything. Check them out. All right. Now, so the chapter also highlights Sobekneferu's architectural contributions, particularly in the Fayum region. She is credited with completing her father's projects and initiating new constructions that emphasize her devotion to the crocodile god Sobek. Now, but where is I keep mentioning the Fayum region, but where is it? Okay, where is it? Let me see. If you can see this map here, if you can see this map, if I can, oh, I can do that. Pretty cool. Okay. If you can see this region here. So we have the Mediterranean Sea, you have the Nile Delta, and the Fayum Oasis. That's right there. Okay. Fayum or Payum. Okay. That is in Lower Egypt. Okay, Tamari. Okay, that is upper. That's where her ancestors are from. Okay, not far from Nefer or Memphis. Okay, that's where it is. And as you can see, Waset is way down here. Or Thebes is way down here. Okay, way down here in the south. So the seat of power right now during this time is in the Fayum or the Memphis area. Will it always be like that? I don't know. We shall see. Now, Collins discussed the challenges Sobekneferu faced as female ruler in a male-dominant society. Her reign lasting approximately 4 years. I think one said 3 years, 10 months, and some days. It was marked by efforts to legitimize her position and maintain stability. Despite the brevity of her rule, despite that, despite the brevity of her rule, her impact on the cultural and political landscape of Egypt was significant, paving the way for future female leaders. Okay, and so chapter two offers a in-depth analysis on her reign over the two lands, shedding light on her political maneuvers, religious affiliations, and architectural achievements. So I, I'm excited about this book. I'm excited about it, and let's go. But what about her? What do you mean? What about her? What do you mean? What do you mean? What are you talking about? And her? You know, we'll find out next week. We'll talk about that next week. We'll get further into it about the ascension of the queens of ancient Egypt. Yeah, we just got to talking about the forgotten pharaoh Sobekneferu of Egypt. Now, if you wanted to learn more about ancient Kush, I got a playlist for you. And if you want to learn about the pharaohs versus the priests, we got another one too. So, all right, you listen to King Cam and Ujumbe podcast. Ujumbe means message, and I will talk to you later. Peace.